3 women, 3 restraining orders, and one terrifying truth nobody warns you about. The most dangerous time isn't when you're in the relationship, it's after you leave. Vanessa thought getting out would make her safe. Lauren had a court order, so she should have been protected, right? And Simone? Simone discovered her ex knew what she was doing every single minute of every single day, even though they'd been separated for months. Today we're talking about post-separation stalking, the phenomenon that kills more women than domestic violence during the relationship itself. If you've left or you're planning to leave and you're terrified he won't let you go, if he's showing up places he shouldn't be, if he somehow knows things he has no way of knowing, this video could save your life. I'm going to tell you 3 real stories, the patterns that connect them, and most importantly, exactly what you need to do right now to protect yourself. The names have been changed to protect these women's privacy, but every detail, every tactic, every moment of fear is real. And if this is happening to you, I need you to hear this. You're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. And you're absolutely right to be scared. Let's start with Vanessa. Vanessa was 34 when she finally left Michael after 8 years of marriage. She was a corporate attorney, sharp, educated, the kind of woman who could argue a case in front of a judge without breaking a sweat. Before Michael, Vanessa was confident. She ran half marathons on weekends, had a close group of law school friends she saw regularly. She was the person people called when they needed advice because she always knew what to say. Vanessa met Michael at a charity gala. He was a financial advisor, successful, charming, had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. Their first date lasted 6 hours. He asked about her cases, remembered every detail she mentioned, sent flowers to her office the next day with a note that referenced something she'd said about her favorite childhood book. Vanessa thought she'd found her person, someone who matched her ambition, someone who got her. The first 2 years were good, really good. Michael supported her career, showed up at firm events, told everyone how proud he was of his brilliant wife. But then came the first comment about her working late. Then the questions about her male colleagues. Then the checking of her phone. By year 5, Vanessa realized she was living in a different kind of courtroom, one where she was always on trial and Michael was judge, jury, and prosecutor. She tried everything. Couples therapy, where he performed perfectly and made her look unreasonable. Explaining herself constantly, changing her behavior to keep peace. Nothing worked because the problem wasn't her behavior. The problem was his need to control. The breaking point came during a work trip to Chicago. Vanessa was there for a deposition. She'd told Michael weeks in advance, sent him her schedule, called him every night from the hotel. But when she got home 2 days later, he was silent. That heavy, punishing silence she'd learned to dread. When she finally asked what was wrong, he said, "I know what you did in Chicago." Vanessa felt her stomach drop. She hadn't done anything, literally nothing except work and sleep. But Michael showed her his phone. He'd somehow accessed her work email, read every message, seen her dinner receipt from eating alone at the hotel restaurant, and decided she was lying. In that moment, staring at her own emails on his phone, something broke in Vanessa. This wasn't marriage, this was surveillance, and it was never going to stop. She hired a different kind of lawyer this time, filed for divorce, got a temporary restraining order based on documentation she'd been keeping, screenshots of his controlling messages, records of the email hacking. The order was granted. Michael was supposed to stay at least 100 yards away from her. No contact except through attorneys. Vanessa moved into a friend's condo while she looked for her own place, changed her phone number, blocked him on everything. And for 2 weeks, there was beautiful, terrifying silence. But then it started. Vanessa was at Starbucks near her office, a place she went every morning before work. She was in line checking her phone when she felt it. That prickling awareness that someone was watching. She looked up. Michael was sitting at a table in the corner. Just sitting there, staring at her. Her heart started pounding. She grabbed her coffee and left immediately, told herself it was a coincidence. Chicago was a big city, but not that big. Maybe he just happened to be there. Except the next day, he was outside her gym, sitting in his car across the street, watching her walk in. He didn't approach, didn't say anything, just watched. Vanessa called the police. They came, took a report, talked to Michael. He said he was just in the neighborhood. Hadn't violated the restraining order because he was more than 100 yards away. Technically legal. The officer told Vanessa to document everything, take photos, keep a log. But there wasn't much they could do unless he actually violated the order's terms. 3 days later, Vanessa was at the grocery store, walked down the produce aisle, and there he was, looking at avocados. Like he just happened to be there, again. That's when the fear really set in. This wasn't coincidence. He was following her, tracking her somehow. But how? She'd changed her number, blocked him online, stopped posting on social media. How did he know where she'd be? Vanessa went to her car after that grocery store encounter, hands shaking so hard she could barely unlock the door. And then she remembered something a colleague had mentioned. AirTags, those little tracking devices people put on keys and bags. Could he have? She immediately drove to the Apple store. Asked a tech there to help her scan for AirTags. They walked around her car with an iPhone using the Find My app. And there it was. The phone detected an AirTag that didn't belong to her. It was in her wheel well, magnetically attached, hidden where she'd never see it unless she was looking. Michael had been tracking her every movement since she left. Every coffee shop, every gym visit, every grocery store. He knew exactly where she was at all times. The tech helped her remove it, showed her how to scan regularly. But Vanessa realized it wasn't enough. He could have put other things, software on devices she still had, access to accounts she didn't know about. She needed help. Vanessa hired a digital forensics expert, someone who usually worked on corporate espionage cases. They did a complete sweep. Found spyware on her laptop that she'd had during the marriage. He'd installed it months ago. It had been sending him screenshots of everything she did online. Her emails, her bank accounts, her location data. Everything. The expert cleaned her devices, taught her how to check for spyware regularly, told her to factory reset everything and start fresh with new passwords. Vanessa also upgraded her restraining order to include electronic monitoring and GPS tracking provisions. Went back to court with evidence of the AirTag, the spyware, the stalking incidents. The judge was not pleased. Modified the order, added serious consequences for violations, ordered Michael to stay away from her workplace, her gym, her regular locations, required him to surrender his devices for forensic examination. But Vanessa didn't stop there. She created a complete safety protocol. First, she told everyone who needed to know. Her boss, her assistant, building security at her office, the staff at her gym. Gave them Michael's photo, description of his car, strict instructions not to give him any information about her and to call police immediately if he showed up. Second, she varied her routines completely. Different coffee shops, different routes to work, different times for everything. Never posted on social media, not even stories that disappeared. Third, she documented everything obsessively. Every time she saw him or his car, she took photos with timestamps, noted the location, wrote down exactly what happened, saved everything in a cloud folder that he couldn't access. Fourth, she installed security cameras at her new apartment, one at the door, one at the parking spot. Cloud-based, so the footage was saved even if the cameras were damaged. Fifth, she created a safety network. Her neighbor knew the situation, had Michael's photo, agreed to call police if they saw him. Her best friend had a copy of the restraining order and knew exactly what to do if Vanessa went silent for too long. Her attorney had instructions to check in weekly. Vanessa also carried pepper spray, took a self-defense class, and made sure her phone was always charged with emergency contacts on speed dial. She was not taking any chances. It took 6 months, but the stalking finally stopped. The combination of the modified restraining order, the evidence she'd gathered, and Michael realizing he was being monitored and documented at every turn, it worked. He backed off. Vanessa hasn't seen him in over a year now. She still varies her routes, still doesn't post on social media, still has the security cameras, but she's sleeping again, living again. She told me something I'll never forget. I thought leaving would make me safe. I didn't understand that leaving is when you're most in danger. If I hadn't learned about AirTags, hadn't done the tech sweep, hadn't documented everything, I don't know what would have happened. He was escalating. and I was alone in it until I realized I needed to build a whole system of protection. Vanessa now works with domestic violence organizations, teaching other women about digital stalking and safety planning. She rebuilt her life, but she did it with her eyes wide open. Now let me tell you about Lauren. Lauren was 29, an elementary school teacher in Portland, divorced after 4 years of marriage to Kyle. The marriage had been controlling, emotionally abusive, but never physically violent, which meant Lauren struggled to get anyone to take it seriously. When she finally left, she got a restraining order. The judge granted it based on Kyle's threatening messages, his history of showing up at her work, his refusal to accept the separation. The order was clear: no contact whatsoever except through attorneys regarding division of property. Kyle was supposed to stay at least 500 feet away from her home, and her workplace. Lauren felt relief when the order was signed. Finally, protection. Finally, boundaries with legal teeth. Finally, she could breathe. Except Kyle had no intention of following the order. He just got more creative about violating it. 2 weeks after the order was in place, Lauren's mom called her. "Sweetie, Kyle came by the house today. He wanted to know how you were doing. He seemed really concerned. Brought me flowers." Lauren felt cold fear wash over her. He'd gone to her mother's house. Her mother, who didn't fully understand how bad things had been. Who thought Kyle was just a concerned ex-husband? "What did you tell him?" Lauren asked. Her mom said, "Well, I told him you were doing fine, that you'd gotten that new apartment near the school." Lauren's hands started shaking. Her mom had just given Kyle her new address. The address she'd specifically kept private, the address that was supposed to be protected. Lauren tried to explain to her mom that Kyle was dangerous, that the restraining order existed for a reason, that she couldn't give him any information. But her mom didn't get it. "He just seemed so worried about you, honey. So sad." I felt bad for him. This was the pattern Lauren would discover over the next few months. Kyle was using other people to get to her. He couldn't contact her directly without violating the restraining order, so he contacted everyone around her. He called her best friend, crying, asking if Lauren was okay. He showed up at her dad's work, supposedly just wanting to drop off some of Lauren's belongings. He sent messages through his sister to Lauren, things like, "I just want to make sure she's safe." "Can you tell her I'm worried?" These were called flying monkeys in the domestic violence advocacy world. People who unwittingly or wittingly carry messages, gather information, maintain connection when direct contact is prohibited. And Kyle was a master at it. He played the heartbroken husband so well that people felt sorry for him. Meanwhile, Lauren was living in fear. Every time her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize, every time someone knocked on her door, every time she saw a car that looked like his, her heart raced. The stress was unbearable. She felt like she was being hunted but couldn't prove it because technically, Kyle wasn't the one contacting her. He was just talking to her family, just asking mutual friends about her, just showing up in her neighborhood but not at her actual building. All technically legal, all absolutely terrifying. The breaking point came when Lauren's coworker mentioned casually, "Hey, some guy called the school office asking about your schedule. Said he was your brother and needed to know when to pick you up. We told him you leave at 4. Lauren didn't have a brother. She went straight to the principal, explained the situation, showed the restraining order. The school immediately implemented new protocols. No information about Lauren given to anyone. Security notified. But the damage was done. Kyle now knew her schedule. And that's when Lauren realized she needed to fight back with documentation. She started keeping a detailed log. Every single contact, even indirect contact. Date, time, who Kyle contacted, what was said, what information was shared. She asked her mom, her dad, her friends to tell her immediately if Kyle reached out and to not engage. Some people got it. Some people thought she was being dramatic. But Lauren didn't care anymore what people thought. She was building a case. Within 2 months, Lauren had documented 15 separate incidents of Kyle violating the spirit of the restraining order through third parties. She took all of it back to court. Her attorney filed a motion for contempt and for modification of the order. In the hearing, the judge listened to the pattern. Kyle's attorney argued that his client hadn't directly contacted Lauren, hadn't technically violated anything. But Lauren's attorney showed the timestamps, the systematic targeting of Lauren's support network, the escalating pattern of information gathering. The judge saw through it, modified the order to include third-party contact, stated explicitly that Kyle could not contact anyone in Lauren's life for the purpose of getting information about her or sending her messages. Violated that, and he'd face jail time. But even more important than the court order was what Lauren did next. She had a frank conversation with everyone in her life. She sent an email to extended family, friends, co-workers, explained the situation clearly, said, "Kyle is not allowed to contact me for any reason. If he reaches out to you about me, do not engage. Do not give him information. Tell him you can't help him and end the conversation. Then please tell me immediately so I can document it." She didn't care if people thought she was overreacting. She needed everyone on the same page. And most people, once they understood the pattern, got on board. Her mom finally understood after Lauren showed her the log, the escalation, the fear. Started screening her calls, stopped answering the door if she didn't know who it was. Lauren also implemented her own safety measures. She varied her routes home from school, parked in different spots, didn't establish any predictable patterns. She checked her car regularly for tracking devices, scanned her phone for spyware, changed all her passwords to things Kyle could never guess. She also joined a support group for women dealing with post-separation abuse. That's where she learned she wasn't alone. That this pattern of using other people, of systematic stalking while staying technically legal, was incredibly common. And that the only way to stop it was relentless documentation and legal persistence. It took almost a year, but Kyle eventually stopped. The modified restraining order, the consequences he faced in court, the fact that Lauren's entire network was now alert and refusing to engage with him, it all worked together. He realized he couldn't get to her anymore and finally, blessedly, moved on. Lauren is 2 years out now. She still has the restraining order, still keeps the documentation, still has boundaries with people about what information they can share. But she's not living in fear anymore. She told me, "The hardest part was realizing that the legal system wasn't automatically going to protect me. A restraining order is just a piece of paper. It only works if you enforce it, document violations, and keep going back to court. I had to be my own advocate. I had to educate everyone around me. I had to become a detective of my own life. But I did it. And I'm safe now." Lauren still teaches, still has her apartment, still has her life. And Kyle is completely out of it. Now let me tell you about Simone. Simone was 41, a surgeon, divorced after 12 years of marriage to Derek. The marriage had been high conflict, with Derek becoming increasingly controlling as Simone's career advanced. When she finally left and filed for divorce, Derek seemed to take it well. Too well, actually. He was cooperative in mediation, agreed to the settlement terms, signed papers without drama. Simone was relieved. She'd expected a fight and instead got compliance. She thought maybe Derek was finally accepting reality, moving on. She had no idea that his calm exterior was hiding a surveillance operation that would make the NSA jealous. 3 months after the separation, Simone started noticing strange things. She'd mentioned to a friend that she was thinking about taking a vacation, and Derek would text his attorney about modifying the parenting schedule for those exact dates. She'd have a difficult day at the hospital, vent to her sister about it, and Derek would send her a message. "Hope your day gets better." She'd change her workout time at the gym, and somehow Derek would show up in the parking lot just as she was leaving. At first, Simone thought it was coincidence. Maybe Derek's attorney had mentioned the vacation dates. Maybe he'd just guessed she'd had a bad day. Maybe the gym timing was luck. But the incidents kept happening. Too many to be chance. The moment everything became clear was terrifying in its simplicity. Simone was at home, alone, looking at paint samples for her new bedroom. She'd been at the store that afternoon, picked out 3 colors, brought them home. Hadn't told anyone, hadn't posted anything, was just sitting on her couch comparing shades when her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. The blue one. "Trust me." Simone's blood ran cold. He was watching her. Somehow right now, he was watching her. She jumped up, started looking around her condo, checked the windows, the doors, looked for cameras, found nothing. but he'd seen her looking at paint samples. There was no other explanation. Simone called her tech-savvy friend Marcus, a cybersecurity consultant, told him everything. He came over that night with equipment, and that's when Simone discovered the extent of Derek's surveillance. Derek had access to her iCloud account. He'd set it up years ago during the marriage, linked their accounts for family sharing, and Simone had never removed his access when they separated, which meant Derek could see everything. Her photos, as they uploaded in real time, her notes, her calendar, her location, tracked continuously through Find My iPhone, her messages, backed up to the cloud, everything. Marcus showed her the account settings. There was Derek's email, still listed as family organizer, still with full access to every piece of data on her devices. Simone felt sick. For 3 months, Derek had been inside her digital life, watching her, reading her private thoughts, tracking her movements, knowing everything. But it got worse. Marcus did a full forensic analysis of Simone's laptop and phone, found that Derek had also installed remote access software on her laptop months before the separation, probably during a time when she'd left it unattended at home. The software ran in the background, invisible, and gave Derek complete access. He could see her screen, read her emails, access her bank accounts. He knew everything about her divorce attorney's strategy because he'd been reading their emails, knew her passwords because he'd watched her type them, knew where she was going before she got there because he'd read her calendar. Marcus immediately started cleaning, changed every password to something Derek couldn't guess, removed Derek from all family sharing and connected accounts, factory reset her devices to clear any software, set up 2-factor authentication on everything, enabled security features she didn't even know existed. But Marcus also told Simone something crucial. You need to document what we're finding before we clean it, because this is illegal. This is stalking. This is hacking. And you need evidence. So before they removed Derek's access, they took screenshots of everything. The account settings showing his access, the software he'd installed, the login records showing when he'd accessed her accounts, the location data showing he'd been tracking her. All of it. Time-stamped, documented, saved. Simone took this evidence straight to her attorney, filed an emergency motion. Within 48 hours, she was in front of a judge. Derek's attorney tried to argue that the iCloud account was set up during the marriage, that Derek didn't know he still had access, that it was an oversight, not intentional stalking. But the software on the laptop was harder to explain. The judge granted an immediate restraining order, ordered Derek to surrender all devices for forensic examination, ordered him to provide a list of any accounts or software he'd used to access Simone's information, made it very clear that any further contact or surveillance would result in criminal charges. But Simone didn't stop with the legal protection. She built a fortress. First, she completely rebuilt her digital life. New email accounts, new cloud accounts, new phone number, new laptop with full disk encryption, new security practices, never logging in on public Wi-Fi, using a VPN, covering her laptop camera. Second, she hired Marcus to do monthly security audits, checking for new tracking software, monitoring her accounts for unauthorized access, making sure her digital life stayed private. Third, she stopped sharing anything about her life on social media, locked down all privacy settings, limited who could see her posts, never included location data or real-time information. Fourth, she implemented physical security too. New locks on her condo, security cameras, varied her routines completely, told very few people her actual schedule or whereabouts. And crucially, Simone documented everything going forward. Every time she discovered Derek had accessed something before the lockdown, every time he showed up somewhere she'd be, every time he demonstrated knowledge he shouldn't have. She kept a detailed log with dates, times, evidence, built an undeniable pattern. It took 8 months of legal battles, but eventually Derek was held in contempt, faced actual consequences, fines, community service, mandated therapy. And most importantly, the court made it very clear that any further violations would mean jail time. The combination of legal consequences and Simone's complete digital lockdown finally stopped the stalking. Derek realized he couldn't access her life anymore. couldn't watch her, couldn't control her, and without that access, he lost interest. Simone is 3 years out now, still maintains strict digital security, still documents everything, still has cameras and locks and protocols, but the stalking stopped. Derek moved to another state, sees their kids according to the custody schedule and nothing more. And Simone has her privacy back. She told me, "I'm a surgeon. I'm trained to solve problems, to be precise, to follow protocols. But nothing in my training prepared me for being hunted in my own digital life. I had to learn a whole new skill set: digital security, legal strategy, safety planning. It was exhausting. But I refused to be a victim. I refused to let him control me from a distance. I fought back with documentation and technology and the law, and I won." So you've heard 3 different stories: Vanessa, Lauren, Simone. An attorney, a teacher, a surgeon. 3 different women with 3 different exes. But the pattern? Identical. And this isn't coincidence. Post-separation stalking follows a playbook. And once you understand the playbook, you can defend against it. Let's talk about the patterns all 3 of these women experienced. First, escalation after separation. In every case, the dangerous behavior didn't start until after the woman left. During the relationship, there was control, yes. Manipulation, absolutely. But the stalking, the surveillance, the relentless tracking, that all began after separation. Why? Because separation represents the ultimate loss of control for an abuser. When you're together, he can control you directly. Through fear, through manipulation, through presence. But when you leave, he loses that direct access. So he escalates. He finds new ways to control. And statistics back this up. 75% of domestic violence homicides happen after separation. The most dangerous time for a woman is not while she's in the relationship. It's the first 3 to 6 months after she leaves. This is when he's most desperate, most dangerous, most likely to escalate to violence. Second, multiple methods of surveillance. Vanessa had physical stalking, plus air tags, plus spyware. Lauren had flying monkeys, plus showing up, plus information gathering. Simone had digital access, plus remote software, plus tracking. None of them experienced just one type of stalking. It was always layered, always multiple tactics at once, physical and digital, direct and indirect. This is important to understand because if you find one method, assume there are others. If he's showing up places, he's probably also tracking you digitally. If he's using other people to get information, he's probably also doing his own surveillance. You have to check everything. Third, violation of restraining orders. All 3 women had legal protection. Vanessa had a restraining order. Lauren had a restraining order. Simone got one during the process. But the orders didn't automatically stop the behavior. Why? Because a restraining order is paper. It's a legal tool. But it only works if it's enforced. And enforcement requires documentation, persistence, going back to court, holding the abuser accountable. Too many women get a restraining order and think that's the end. It's not. It's the beginning. It's the tool you use to document violations and escalate consequences. Fourth, use of technology. Every single story involved technology. AirTags, spyware, remote access, iCloud access, social media monitoring. This is the modern reality of stalking. It's not just showing up in person anymore. It's digital surveillance that gives him access to your entire life from a distance. And most women have no idea how vulnerable their devices are, how many accounts he might still have access to, how easy it is to install tracking software. Fifth, isolation and fear. All 3 women described feeling hunted, feeling alone, feeling like no one understood how serious it was. Vanessa's friends thought she was paranoid. Lauren's mom thought Kyle was just concerned. Simone's colleagues didn't understand why she was so stressed about a divorce. The isolation is part of the tactic. He wants you to feel crazy, to question yourself, to think you're overreacting, but you're not. Sixth, need for complete life overhaul. None of these women could just get a restraining order and move on. They had to change everything: digital life, physical routines, social boundaries, safety protocols. This isn't about 1 or 2 changes. It's about building a complete system of protection. And finally, documentation is everything. The women who successfully stopped the stalking were the women who documented relentlessly. Photos, screenshots, logs, timestamps, witnesses, evidence, because without documentation, it's your word against his. And he will lie. He will minimize. He will make you look crazy. But documentation doesn't lie. Video doesn't lie. Timestamps don't lie. Build your case like you're going to trial. Because you might be. So what do you do if this is happening to you? If you've left and he won't leave you alone? If he's showing up, tracking you, using other people to get to you? I'm going to give you 3 specific steps you can start today. First step, do a complete text security sweep. This is urgent. Assume he has access to more than you know. Here's exactly what to do. Check all your account settings. Email, cloud storage, social media, banking apps, everything. Look for devices or email addresses you don't recognize. Look for family sharing or linked accounts. Remove anything that's connected to him. Change every single password, not just some of them. All of them. Use a password manager to create unique, complex passwords he couldn't possibly guess. Do not use anything personal. No birthdays, no pet names, no anniversary dates. Random strings of characters. Enable 2-factor authentication on every account that offers it. This means even if he has your password, he can't get in without the code sent to your phone. Factory reset all your devices, phone, laptop, tablet, everything. Yes, you'll lose some data if it's not backed up, but you'll also remove any spyware or remote access software he might have installed. Start fresh. Scan your car and belongings for tracking devices. You can buy AirTag detectors on Amazon for under $30. You can download apps that scan for GPS trackers. Check your car thoroughly. Wheel wells, under seats, in the trunk, inside bumpers. Check your purse, your laptop bag, anything you carry regularly. If you find something, do not remove it immediately. Document it first. Take photos showing where it is. Note the date and time you found it. Then remove it and save it as evidence. Second step, create and distribute a safety plan. You cannot do this alone. You need other people aware and watching out for you. Tell your employer. Show them the restraining order if you have one. Provide a photo of your ex. Ask them to alert security if he shows up. Many workplaces have protocols for this. Use them. Tell your children's school or daycare. Same thing. Photo, restraining order, instructions not to release the kids to anyone except you. No information given about schedules or activities. Immediate call to police if he appears. Tell your neighbors. The people who live around you are your eyes and ears when you're not home. Give them his photo, his car description. Ask them to call you and the police if they see him near your home. Tell close friends and family. But be very clear about boundaries. They cannot give him any information about you. They cannot pass messages. They cannot engage with him at all. If he contacts them, they say, "I can't help you," and they end the conversation. Then they tell you immediately so you can document it. Build a safety network at places you frequent. Your gym, your coffee shop, your grocery store. Talk to managers. Show the restraining order. They want to help. They don't want drama in their business. Most will alert you if he shows up and call police if needed. Vary your routines completely. This is hard. Humans are creatures of habit, but you cannot be predictable right now. Different routes to work, different times for errands, different locations for regular activities. Never post real-time location on social media. Never establish patterns he can track. Third step, document everything obsessively. This cannot be overstated. Documentation is your most powerful tool. Every single incident needs to be recorded. Here's how. Create a stalking log. This can be a simple spreadsheet or document. Columns for date, time, location, what happened, witnesses, evidence. Fill it in every time something occurs. Be specific. Not, he showed up. Instead, Thursday, April 15th, 2024, 3:47 p.m., Starbucks on Main Street. He was sitting at corner table when I arrived. Made eye contact. I left immediately. Barista Sarah saw him watching me. Take photos of everything. Him at locations. His car, if you see it. Any gifts or notes he leaves. Screenshots of messages sent through other people. Screenshots of social media posts that reference you. Save all communications. Even if he's not supposed to contact you, save everything that comes through. Voicemails, texts, emails, messages passed through others. Don't delete anything. It's all evidence. File police reports every time. Even if they can't do anything in the moment, you're creating an official record. Get report numbers. Keep copies. This establishes pattern and shows you've been reporting consistently. Save everything to the cloud, not just on your phone or computer. Use a cloud service he doesn't have access to. This way, if something happens to your devices, you still have all your documentation. Consider wearing a small body camera or using an app that records. Some states allow you to record interactions if you're a party to them. Check your local laws. But having video evidence is powerful. Now, I need to tell you something important. If you're experiencing post-separation stalking, you are not paranoid. You are not overreacting. You are not being dramatic. The statistics are clear. You are in the most dangerous period. The first 6 months after leaving an abusive relationship are when you are most at risk. This is not about him missing you. This is not about him wanting to work things out. This is about control. You took away his ability to control you directly, so now he's trying to control you from a distance. Through fear, through surveillance, through making you feel hunted. And he is counting on you to doubt yourself. To think you're overreacting. To be embarrassed to ask for help. To minimize what's happening because he's not actually doing anything violent. Don't fall for it. Stalking is violence. Surveillance is violence. The fear you feel is valid. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. If you feel unsafe, you are unsafe. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Not friends who think you're being paranoid. Not family who thinks he's harmless. Not even police who might not take it seriously at first. You know what you're experiencing. You know the fear is real. Act on that knowledge. And please understand, you cannot handle this alone. I know you're strong. I know you're capable. I know you got yourself out of that relationship. But post-separation stalking requires help. Legal help, technical help, emotional support, community awareness. You need lawyers who understand domestic violence. You need tech experts who can find and remove surveillance. You need therapists who specialize in trauma. You need friends and family who take this seriously. You need advocates at domestic violence organizations who have seen this before and know what works. Do not try to be a hero and do this by yourself. That's what he wants. He wants you isolated, struggling alone, doubting yourself. Don't give him that. Build your team. Use every resource available. Fight back with the law, with technology, with community, with documentation. And know that it can stop. It does stop. Vanessa's stalking stopped. Lauren's stopped. Simone's stopped. Not because the men suddenly became reasonable, but because the women built systems of protection so thorough, so documented, so legally enforced, that continuing became too risky and too difficult. You can do the same. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes persistence. But you can create safety for yourself even when you're dealing with someone determined to invade your life. If you're in immediate danger, if he's escalating, if you fear for your safety right now, call 911. Do not wait. Do not minimize. If you feel unsafe, call. If you're planning to leave or recently left and need help creating a safety plan specific to post-separation stalking, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They have advocates trained specifically in separation violence and stalking. They can help you think through tech security, legal options, safety planning. The call is free and confidential. You can also text START to 88788. They have resources for digital security, for finding local advocates, for understanding your legal options state by state. And remember, leaving was the hardest thing you've ever done. Staying safe after leaving might be the second hardest. But you did the first impossible thing. You can do this one too. If this video helped you understand what's happening, if it gave you steps you can take, if it made you feel less alone, subscribe to this channel. Every week I share stories like these, real patterns, real dangers, real solutions. Because knowledge is safety, understanding is power, and you deserve both. Claude é uma IA e pode cometer erros. Por favor, verifique as respostas.